Hey everybody, I'm back and I'm going to finish up with both chapters 14 and 15. I only have a few slides because I did cut these chapters down, okay? So chapter 14 is all about the spinal cord and spinal nerves. And so we're going to quickly go over the function of the spinal cord, the structure of the spinal cord, and we're going to talk about reflexes. So the spinal cord is super important because it takes information from the body and sends it to the brain, and takes information from the brain and sends it back out to the body. So spinal cord has all mixed nerves, and there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves that function in both sensory and motor information. So it takes in information from the peripheral nervous system, sends it to the brain, and takes information from the central nervous system and sends it back out to the body. Spinal cord is also responsible for our basic reflexes that keep us alive. So spinal cord has many different subdivisions, just like our vertebrae, the spinal cord, are named for those regions. So we have a cervical region of our spinal cord, and we have multiple nerves coming off that cervical region. We have a thoracic region of the spinal cord, which has thoracic nerves coming off. We have a lumbar region of our spinal cord and a sacrum region of the spinal cord. There are 31 pairs of spinal nerves, and I will never ask you to identify a specific nerve, but it's not hard because if you already know the number of cervical vertebrae, then you know the number of spinal nerves that we have in that region. So we have 8, 12, 5, 5, and 1 for the coccyx. They're paired. They're always paired. So, this is our spinal cord, a nice drawing or, figure. This is a spinal nerve. Contains sensory and motor information that runs into the spinal cord from the peripheral nervous system. Spinal cord is part of our central nervous system, and it has special protective structures that surround it. It has a dura mater, which is the outermost region. It has an arachnoid mater, and then it has a pia mater, which actually sits right on the spinal cord. Within the gray region of the spinal cord, and you can see that there. So you have these posterior horns and anterior horns. The posterior horns take in information, sensory information, and helps to process that information. The anterior horns send out information that hopefully allows the body to move properly. And there's your spinal cord again, labeled and beautiful. Yeah, that's not going to work. Sorry. Nerves actually oftentimes run in large groups called a plexus. There are multiple plexes, and we have one on each side for each of these nerves. So we have a cervical plexus, a brachial plexus, a lumbar plexus, and a sacral plexus. The cervical plexus is located in the cervical region, and it runs on each side of our neck and innervates different regions of our body, different regions of our muscles, I should say. um, allowing us to hold our head up, um, as well as probably the most important one is running to our diaphragm and stimulating our diaphragm to contract. And that's this nerve is called the phrenic nerve. I know earlier I said I wouldn't ask you to know any nerves. What I mean by that is I'm not going to put a diagram out and say name this nerve, but I do want you to know the phrenic nerve innervates the diaphragm and that the phrenic nerve is part of the cervical plexus. The brachial plexus has multiple nerves that run off into both arms, so branches off there, and innervates different regions of our arms as well as certain areas of our torso. The two nerves that I really care about are the median nerve and the ulnar nerve. The median nerve is associated with carpal tunnel syndrome, and the ulnar nerve is associated with, wrist drop syndrome, but also with, have you ever, and so I know this happens, everybody has hit their funny bone. It's the ulnar nerve that you're actually compressing that's causing the pain. And so here you can see the ulnar nerve really well. And over here you can see the median nerve. Median nerve injury can lead to carpal tunnel syndrome. And a lot of times this is going to lead to severe damage to the hands where you can't use your hands effectively and you have to have surgery to repair the damage. Ulnar nerve injury can cause a lot of problems if the ulnar nerve is damaged, then it can cause paralysis of the medial region of the hand, but it also can cause just the inability of your hand to work effectively, your fingers to move effectively. The lumbar region, L1 through L4, and it runs into each leg. So they branch off and run to each side of the body. I don't really specifically pick nerves from this area that I care about because there's not a lot of unique disorders just with the lumbar plexus. I mean, any innervation, if you have damage to the nerves, then those muscles won't work. But the sacral plexus has the sciatic nerve. And so the sciatic nerve is one of the most well-known nerves of the body. And when it is compressed, it causes the disordered sciatica, which most people have probably felt at some point or another. There's your sciatic nerve, and it's often associated when it is compressed with extreme pain and the inability to walk effectively. The pain is so severe, and it can be caused by like a herniated disc or other disorders. The last thing we're going to talk about in this chapter are reflexes. So a reflex, in a nutshell, is a pre-programmed involuntary reaction of muscles or glands to some stimulus. These are, we do not have control over them. So it's not just smooth muscle, skeletal muscle also has reflexes. And it's basically a survival mechanism. Think about when you're first born. There's not a lot of things that you can do. You have to be able to nurse. So you have to be able to suck so that you can get food. Other than that, you're going to depend on your parents for everything. Here's an example of a basic reflex. This would be a withdrawal reflex. You withdraw from something that is causing damage. So in this case, there's a nail, and the nail sticks to your skin. The receptor sends a signal to your brain. The brain processes that information in the interneurons. Response is sent out through efferent neurons to the effector, and the effector is going to cause movement. Examples of basic reflexes, I talked about sucking reflex, the withdrawal reflex, the patellar reflex. Those are all common reflexes of our skeletal muscles. So those are known as somatic reflexes. We also have autonomic reflexes, which I'll talk a little bit about in Chapter 15. So Chapter 15 is about the autonomic nervous system. I talked very briefly about this system. We've already talked about sympathetic and parasympathetic, so I'll go over that a little bit again. The major importance of the autonomic nervous system is it regulates body regions that are under involuntary reactions that are not under conscious thought. Autonomic nervous system functions to maintain homeostasis, regulating blood pressure, regulating respiratory rate, digestion, filtering blood, regulates our sweating. All of these things are important. Food, hunger, thirst, those all have to be maintained, and they're all part of the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is your relax, your rest nervous system. So this is where your body is working under normal conditions. Your digestive system is going to function normally. Urinary system is going to function normally. You're not going to have a rapid heart rate. You're going to be breathing more relaxed. Sympathetic is your fight or flight. This is also your exercise nervous system. So it prepares the body for whatever stressor that's coming about. Autonomic nervous system also has reflexes. These are called autonomic reflexes. These help to maintain homeostasis, just like somatic reflexes did in Chapter 14. The difference is with autonomic reflexes, we're associating the reflex with smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, or glandular tissue. There are a lot of different examples. On here I have gastrointestinal reflex, secretion of gastric juice during parasympathetic activity. That would be an example of autonomic reflexes. The startle reflex that causes your heart to start beating faster, that's an autonomic reflex. When your pupils dilate or constrict, that's a reflex. That's a pupillary reflex, and that's smooth muscle, so it's an autonomic reflex. That's the end of this chapter. I'm going to post this video, and I will see you later. Bye.